is your girl Jodi with Whispers ASMR. And tonight we are going to be reading Let's Not Meet, or Creepy Encounters, or whatever you want to call it, but basically, I never want to do this again at all, ever. So, thank you all for coming back to my channel, or coming to my channel. I appreciate you, every single one of you. I love when you leave comments, subscribe, like the video if you like this whispered kind of content. I am so excited for my next video and this one, but my next one I have done a ton of research. I mean, 10-15 hours of research on asylums, and I've got tons and tons, just letting you know, tons of asylum stories for you. So let's begin. If you have not hit that subscribe button, or have not subscribed and you would like to subscribe to our little family, please do so in the right hand corner. I would be so appreciative of that. So I hope you're all doing fantastically well and are surviving another week of the summer. Unless, of course, you're in Australia, right? I think it's winter there, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, Holly D, is it winter in Australia? I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't live there. And I don't want to say anything that's not 100% true, but what I can recall from school, yes, that's the best I've got. So let's stop jabbering and get on with these really creepy stories from Let's Not Meet, or Creepy Encounters. I'm not sure that Let's Not Meet is even a place anymore that you can actually go and post your stories, to be quite honest. I cannot really find the Reddit. I guess because some people say that there's a lot of Let's Not Meet that were not true. Let me give you my 2 cents on that. I believe the crazier the story, probably the truer it is. And I don't mean like aliens coming down and bouncing off walls, things like really out there, but I mean, I had a creative writing professor in college that said truth many times is much more fascinating than fiction itself, which actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because I swear some of the things that have happened to me, I literally say, I can't make this stuff up. I just can't do it. So sit back and relax, and enjoy these stories. A guy bought a house and found a bag. I don't know, I think it was money in a barn behind the house. He said he set up cameras and would find a strange guy just staring into the camera for half an hour at a time in the late night. Maybe trying to intimidate the owner. I went to see if the person who had written this had updated the story. He said he could not say too much more because the say that my husband and I started off as high school sweethearts. And, like high school sweethearts most often are very popular, pretty people, practically known for just being in love with each other. That was our identity. We were, of course, voted in as the most likely to get married. And after high school, you guessed it, we got married. Yeah, we sure did. I mean, right out of high school. Which is cool. I have friends that are still married to this day that were married right out of high school. We were 19. We had great parents. We each had a great job. Opportunity that was on hold for us. And everything was amazing. Lucky. That's what we were. But our flame, well, it was dwindling fast. After our first daughter, things started to get a little bit edgy between me and my husband. My husband is I should take that back, generally a very enthusiastic human being. We have been together throughout high school, married for about another 5 years. So I do not think we didn't have our fun when we had the chance, of course. Of course we did. We had a great time together. And we still do, I think. We didn't want children until our mid-20s, and really everything has been perfectly fine. Until recently. My husband has been acting really bizarre towards our daughter. I would often catch him avoiding all contact with her, and when she would crawl towards him, he would visibly flinch, like he did not want her around. Which, of course, made me feel very unsettled and a little bit, I don't know, I guess you would say scared. Hurriedly, he'd scamper the complete opposite direction sometimes from her. He cringed every time he saw me pick her up, kiss her face, or even just be around her and play with her. Isn't this really odd behavior? Well, I believe it is. I don't know, I think it is a mix of jealousy and envy. I don't know. I don't really know. But this was such strange behavior coming from the man that I truly love and have loved since the day I met him, that it hurts quite a lot. I mean, this man is not only my husband, he is the father of my children. And I mean, when I love him, this man was my first everything, and we have our first child together that he cannot fucking stand. He can't even bear the thought of giving her any bit of attention. He made it seem like she was some kind of disease or illness. And he continued to treat her like the plague. Literally, it blew my mind. So one night I was doing the usual, putting our daughter down to sleep. I noticed my husband peeping around the corner of the door. I immediately walked out of our daughter's room to go find him, but he had disappeared. And oddly, I look to our bedroom and the door is slowly being shut. At this point, I had had enough. I rolled my eyes and walked into our room and noticed he was lying in bed facing away from me. Honey, I spoke to him calmly. Can I talk to you about something? It's been really bothering me Hold on. What do you mean by this, honey? I mean, she's not ours. Don't you find her kind of, I don't know, off or strange? I was taken aback, offended, shocked. So many emotions going through my mind. I could not believe my husband was saying this. Maybe this wasn't something he wanted. Maybe he didn't want a family and this was his way of exiting. Is he trying to tell me things are somehow defective? Wow, okay, you know what? I'm not having this conversation about our daughter. I snuggled under the sheets, turned away from him, and decided not to talk to him or influence an argument for the rest of the night, but he just sighed. There is something wrong with her. I cannot explain it. I almost started to consider what he was trying to say, but refused to believe it, regardless of how convincing he had become. Look, honey, I don't even know how to say this. I don't think she's human. What the fuck? She's not human. I was beyond surprised. How is our daughter not human? Honey, I gave birth to her in front of doctors, nurses, and you. Was that so unnatural? I was beyond furious at this point and upset and sad and confused. But there was something about his voice. He was not trying to be offensive. And this was something he had clearly been thinking about day after day. I woke up again, at this time about 4 in the morning, from the sound of our daughter crying. I get up and mumble that I would check on her. When I got up to walk across the hall, I noticed her light was on. Now, this is a really strange thing to be. I thought about everything my husband said and proceeded with caution, my heart thumping out of my chest. Who in the world turned the lights on? I opened the door, quietly found my husband standing over the cradle, staring at her, gripping the gate really hard and just staring. What in the hell is going on in that mind of his? I cautiously, carefully, and with intentional slow movements, I walked towards him slowly and called his name softly, but he didn't respond. Look at her, honey. Don't you see it in her eyes? I stood next to him. I gently put my hand on his and looked at our crying daughter. They're not normal, honey. I did look at her eyes lifting up in my arms, rocking her and hushing her and humming. Her eyes were beautiful, big and brown like mine. She has my eyes, I said in a dreamy tone as she finally started to settle down. They're beautiful. Elizabeth, her eyes are missing. What? My brow furrowed and I looked up at him, holding our daughter tighter against my chest. He was towering over me, staring at our daughter like she was his next meal. I took a good look at him. His eyes were red, and he looked so strange, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He had gotten pale, as if he were sick. He was sweating. I husband is showing some signs of mental illness. Any other explanation would be drugs. I used to work for a elementary school, and there was a guy that worked at one of the schools at night. He was an evening supervisor, and he was favored by all the administration. Well, long story short, this was a newer school that was only open for a few years. New building, new foundation. There was a large picture on a wall with this pretty little girl with wavy blonde hair and blue eyes. Whenever the guy went by the picture, he could not look at it. He would run really quick, right past it. For some reason, he had an enormous problem with it. No one understood what his problem was with this picture. But one day he confided in one of the staff and told them that this little girl was an alien. But he was not joking. He said he could tell by the eyes. He said there are aliens among us, and that was a picture of one. He explained that he was able to recognize these aliens. I don't know what ever happened to that man. He was a really nice man and well respected in that district. Can't say I would want to be on a plane that he was flying, though. I hope you find out what is going on. Your daughter needs love and attention from both her parents. Maybe if he is willing to go and get evaluated and get help, treatment, things would get better. Yes, in people's early 20s is when mental illness like bipolar and schizophrenia really start to become more pronounced. There are usually earlier signs, but they don't often get addressed as these mental illnesses. Usually the person is just considered to be young and wacky. It's an unfortunate fact, but a parent's love can warp our perception of our children. We want our children to be all the best of humanity, and this can make us all fail to see what our children really truly are. I've heard it said that mankind is the rational animal, but a more accurate description is that we're the rationalizing animal. Our own desires may lead us to make excuses for anything that would otherwise strike us as not quite right. Our minds can even make it seem that people who are close to you have been able to see through their biased perception and try to talk to you about them seem hostile or threatening. When it is your own mind trying to protect your own self from having to see that perhaps your child might be some sort of monster. I don't know what to tell you, but in situations like this, you have to try to take what your husband's saying, he is your trusted partner, without allowing your emotions to contour or color how you perceive what he is saying. Always move forward with caution, of course. It is more likely that your long-term partner with whom you've shared most of your life with has suddenly become a sinister threat, or that your bond and love of your child is making you see through rose-colored glasses. I mean, is your daughter harming you? Is your daughter harming your spouse? What's the problem if she is an alien and just lives a normal life? Why is it so bad? Why do we always have to label people and make preconceived judgments on what they're going to be like? If her behavior is kind and loving, that doesn't make her less of your daughter. And she will even tell you that she did not feel like she was in this world till she was 7 or 8. So it could be that your daughter is still kind of attached to her last life. That is another possibility. I don't think that your husband, well, maybe may kill her and then commit suicide if he really feels like she's a threat. You have to talk to him and convince him she's not a threat. That's very important. I can't even tell you how important that is. So I've worked odd jobs my whole entire life, kind of off and on, you know. I worked here and there in different states, different people, different places, different things. That's what I like. But the strangest odd job I ever worked was in 1982. So I work basically enough to make rent every month. I'm kind of a vagabond or somebody who travels around, gypsy kind of person that's, I don't know. It used to be my life motto back in the day. I watched my daddy break his back for pennies in the coal mines and quickly learned that we're expected to work harder than we ever needed to. The day I moved out of that torn up 2-bedroom shack, I let my wanderlust consume me, which was amazing. I traveled the world working quick jobs whenever I needed extra cash. It was a great life. I can't even tell you how many jobs I've worked. Courier, hog gunner, oil driller, private investigator's assistant, alligator handler, and were just some of the professions I had. If there's a job out there, chances are I've done it. I knocked up a waitress in south of Padre Island around 1993. Well, fatherhood, parenthood, motherhood really changes a person. It changes your entire perspective on life. I found a job at the post office and worked there until arthritis forced me to retire early. I do appreciate the irony in all of it. Now I spend my time drinking beer, watching after my grandbabies. I stumble upon different subreddit posts, and I stumbled upon this a while ago and have been hooked on the stories ever since. So I'm going to tell you mine. Maybe I'll get some answers, and maybe I won't. It was the summer of 1982. I was chasing tail in New Orleans. I must have been around 23 or so, still in the first stage of my journey. At that time I was working as a dog catcher, but after getting bit twice, I wasn't looking to make a career out of it, if you know what I mean. So I glossed through the classifieds one afternoon, and a job posting caught my eye. Wanted. A young man with a vehicle who can work nights. Must be able to follow directions, $100 per day. Well, $100 does not stretch as far as it used to, but you could go to the moon with that kind of cash back then, which is absolutely true. $100 was a hell of a lot of money back then. Of course, I was skeptical of such a good opportunity in a listing in the classifieds, you know. Wouldn't you be? But it was too good to pass up. Naively inquired about the job that seemed perfect, but ended up with some weirdo trying to grab my crotch. Left together a Henry LeBlanc realty in every freaking town. A hefty middle-aged man answered the door and introduced himself as Hank, not Henry. He looked me up and down and said, "You'll do, I guess." With a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, unbothered as ash, puttered down his faded green polo shirt. So he sits me at a small poker table, the only place free from clutter in the cramped office space. "You got a big mouth, son," he said while studying me with gold rimless glasses that hung low on his nose. "What? Excuse me?" "A big mouth. You got one, 'cause I need someone who can keep their trap fucking shut." I ain't no rat. What kind of job is this?" Hank waved me off. You know, that one they do with their hand flickers in their face. "It ain't asking you to do anything illegal, son. I just need someone who appreciates confidentiality." "You need me to sign anything or what?" Hank shook his head, clearly not appreciating my flippancy. "Don't need you to sign a thing, just need to know I can trust you." "Yes, sir, you can." Hank sighed and leaned back into his chair and could tell he was mulling over whether or not to give me the job if he really trusted me. "Does the Cutlass out there have a radio in it?" he asked. I'm not exactly sure what the hell that had to do with it, but let's see. Yes, it does, sir. He was gesturing towards my prized 1976 Cutlass convertible parked out front. "How loud does it get?" I smirked. I could wake up a whole block if I needed it to. Hank slowly nodded and rubbed the gray stubble on his chin. "Good, here's what I need you to do." Oddly simple the job was. After midnight, I would drive my Cutlass to Metairie, a suburb outside New Orleans. I'd take a right down 50th Street and go down until I reached the dead end. Then I would turn around and drive back up the street. All I had to do was make sure the music in my stereo was blasting at full volume. "Is that it?" I said a bit incredulously. "Yep, that's it, son. Can you start tonight?" I flirted with some women at a nearby dive bar and closed my tab around 11:45. I hopped in the Cutlass and cruised to Metairie. Feeling the hot summer breeze on my face, a neon green sign labeled 50th Street appeared, and I pulled over to turn the corner. When I turned on my radio, the street was dead silent, and all the street lights were off except for one flicker at the dead end. Come to think of it, it may have been the only light on it all. All of the homes, mostly shacks, appeared to be abandoned, some had their windows shoddily boarded up with plywood. Yep, I flipped on my radio and Rock With You by Michael Jackson began blasting. I let the Cutlass slowly meander toward the end of the street, peeking at the houses that clearly seemed empty. Just what the hell was going on here, and what the hell was I doing out here? I reached the circular dead end and whipped around, driving back down the street. As I went to turn out of the block, I could have sworn I saw the house in the corner turn its lights on. I turned off the radio and drove back to Hank's in silence. When I got to Hank's office, I was surprised to see him there. He was still smoking cigarettes and drinking saw the neon green 50th Street sign flicker and skidded into the block. Again, the street was completely silent, and the light at the end flickered incessantly. I was fumbling for a cigarette when I heard a sound that made my stomach turn. It sounded both like an animal howling and a sheet metal scraping together. I turned the brights on and hoisted myself up, but couldn't see a damn thing. Then my headlights quivered before going out entirely. I slammed my fist down on the dash and heard the hum of the lights restarting. Yeah. Almost pissing my pants, I turned on the radio and started blaring Physical by Olivia Newton-John through my radio, which sounded more distorted than yesterday. I made my way down the street, squinting in the dark, and tried to see what was in front of me. I almost reached the end of the block when the Cutlass engine sputtered and slowed to a stop. Now I just want to preface this with I took care of that Cutlass like it was my own child back in the day. It'd probably still be sitting in my garage had I not wrecked it 2 years later in Palo Alto. It was almost inconceivable for it to just break down without giving me some kind of notice. Perplexed, I lit another cigarette to grab my tools from the trunk and opened the hood, where I was greeted by hot steam. I shone my flashlight and checked out the engine, but didn't find anything unusual after the smoke cleared. Something, temporarily disabled my car. I don't know. But this is when things started to get fucking weird. The temperature started to drop. I went from wiping pizza sweat off my forehead to nearly shivering in the middle of July. The piercing sound I heard earlier ripped through the silence of the street, making me jump out of my boots. My eyes darted around as I felt I was being watched. But it still seemed like I was the only one in the neighborhood. I didn't get it. I took a deep breath and carefully slipped into my car to slow my heart rate down as quick as I could. Thankfully it turned on and I sped out of the street, ignoring the potholes I hit on my way out. I got to Hanks and saw him pacing back and forth through the window pane and muttering to himself. Hank seemed pleased to see me again. Let me get your cash, he said, and returned with another dirty $100 bill. I can only pay you for one more night. Are you in? I accepted. Now more curious about what I am experiencing than getting paid, I thought about prying Hank with some questions, although I had this weird feeling it wouldn't produce any answers. He didn't exactly seem like he was in the right headspace. I don't know. He was still muttering to himself as I was leaving. I waited in my motel room, not going out to any bars to keep a clear mind. I sped to 50th Street, but still had trouble finding it like yesterday. It was almost like it did not exist. Finally, around midnight, my headlights lit up the street sign and I cruised into the street. Fuck it, my Cutlass started acting up again. What the hell? Cranking and jerking almost like it was scared to move forward. Maybe I should have been scared to move forward. Something was off. Something was not right. I turned my radio on, but all I heard was freaking static followed by strange sounds I did not recognize. I turned my stereo all the way up and coaxed my car to lurch forward. The houses looked sound I heard last night pierced again through the quiet evening, and the street light in my car turned back on. Instead of static, music was playing through it, but it sounded like old-timey ragtime. Honestly, I couldn't tell you the song because I didn't recognize it. In front of me was a young woman in a tattered dress. Her back was turned to me, so I could not make out her face. Her head was cocked to the side as she stood stoically under the street light. I tried to turn the radio off, but it wouldn't fucking budge. I leaned out of my window and tried to get the woman's attention. And that I did. Slowly she turned around. I still couldn't see her face as her clumpy, mangled, long hair covered her eyes. I could see that her mouth was smiling, but it quickly turned into a sour expression. She began to walk toward me slowly and then quickened her pace. I shifted the gear to reverse and sped down the street, but to my amazement and horror, the woman kept pace with the cutlass. Her face was now contorted with rage. The music was only growing louder, and it was piercing my eardrums. I noticed I was going almost 90 miles an hour and not getting away from this woman. What in the hell is happening? The agonizing noise made my eardrums bleed, and I frantically tried to steer my way out of the neighborhood. I looked forward and towards the woman, but she was gone. And I realized at that moment my car was not moving at all. In fact, I was still at the beginning of the block, only this time the sign read 49th Street. Shaking profusely, I drove slowly back to Hank's. I needed answers. Somebody had to know something about this. But he was gone. $100 bill was on the table with a knife through the middle of it. A crumpled up note simply said, "Thanks, kid." I went back to my place and immediately fell into a dreamless sleep. I checked out the next day of the motel and headed for California. I spent a couple more years wandering until I found out I was a father. Life had been a blur since then, but recently I've been experiencing strange happenings when I'm driving. I find myself taking wrong turns and ending up on streets well, to be honest, I don't recognize. I don't live in a very big town, and I've lived here for a long time. I'll drive down the street and it feels like it never ends. When I notice something is wrong, I end up back where I started with my car, usually completely off for no reason. I get that same anxious feeling that I had years ago, like I'm trapped. For now, I can pull myself together and get to my destination. My doctor said it's early signs of dementia. So do my son and daughter, but I'm still incredibly sharp in the mind. I'm worried I won't be able to pick my grandbabies up from school anymore. This weekend I'm going back to Mediterranean to look for 50th Street. I never got answers then, so maybe I'll find some now with some extra help from everybody. I just have to figure out how this damn GPS works. Three nights of repetition at a specific hour. That hour was midnight. Each night worse than the last. It's the rule of three, honestly. Hank was cursed or haunted, and he found a way to get the thing to hop from him to you, possibly. it would kind of explain why he was so jumpy the first 2 times and wasn't even there the final night. The guilt was killing him, and anxiety was dumping this onto you. Yeah, I feel like you got past a curse. No. Has anybody heard of the right, left game? Kinda sounds similar in some way. If you haven't, check it out. I don't really know, I find that to be a little bit odd, don't you? Don't know. So, have you ever had somebody actually editing your life? When I was 16, this happened to me. After living out my junior prom 10 times, I started to wake to a world which was not mine. I was 16. I did not live freely like the rest of you. You could call it a lot of things. Loss of free will, the ability to choose. I can say that now because I have better understanding of what happened. But I did not have control over my own life, and what happened to me, my fate was in somebody else's hands, believe it or not. It had been happening my whole life, but I don't think I'm gonna go into all that bullshit. I don't think I was fully aware of it until I was around the age of 8 years old, though. It started subtly, as anything does. You see, I would only notice if I paid really close attention. My popsicle turning into ice cream, my dolls changing hair color, spaghetti would turn into soup, and pizza would become garlic bread, baguettes, and tacos. But as I grew up, these edits became easier to register, especially when they were happening actively. Let's say I was riding the school bus. I would suddenly be in the back of my dad's car. Do you think it was hallucinations, that's where I wanted to be and that's where I was, or was I living in a parallel universe? I don't really know if I've been living in a parallel universe this entire time. My mom would take me to a birthday party, which was a pool party. But then, all of a sudden, I'd be riding on a ride at the amusement park. Then, I'd be at the beach. I never said anything to anybody. It just felt like I didn't know really where I was, ever. I can't explain it. The exact same events took place, predetermined events which could not be altered. It was just me and my life, which was edited. I don't know, by my own subconsciousness or by somebody else. It was really irritating at times. Well, actually most of the time it was. 10 years old when I got my first crush. Yeah, Jed Pearson, a redhead who sat in front of me in class. But then it was Christopher Jacobs, and then it was John. Yes, followed by somebody else, and then somebody else. Eventually, I was settled that my first crush would be God knows who. to what was coming next. In some cases, these people at the institutions could help. Like, I would be cycling down the road and I would tell them that suddenly I'd be going too fast, flying over my handlebars and skinning my knees. And then the people that were helping me out with, or living in my parallel universe, or me doing, I don't know what it was, but they would change it into something else. I'd be slowed down instead. I cleared the hill easily, avoiding the rock jutting out of the ground. Although getting up in age, I didn't want these things to happen to me. Because what kid wants someone else to have control over their life? But as I got older, I realized it was me controlling me, just in a different universe. So I want to tell you about Jesse Eaton's 12th birthday party. I made 2 friends, Hannah and Ruby. I spent all day with them, exchanging secrets and giggling over boys. We had just decided that we were going to have a slumber party of our own when I was abruptly yanked back to the start of the goddamn party. This time Hannah and Ruby did not talk to me. When I went over to greet them, 2 girls exchanged weirded out looks, told me my swimsuit looked stupid, and left me on the edge of the pool. What's crazy is I remember the friendship which blossomed between us in those few short hours it takes to make friends. I couldn't grasp this. It felt sick and uncomfortable. I had this feeling that we were going to be friends for a long time, that maybe it would last a lifetime, before I was pulled back to the start of that day, and this time the 2 of them became the exact opposite of who they were. So now, from now on, this is when it really started to bother me. Personal friendships and relationships were changed, cut to the suit. This phantom entity playing around with my life, or me playing around with my life, or my older me playing around with my life, or parallel universe fucking everything up. It was strange. I can't even really explain it. My dad getting 3 different new jobs in a day. We moved to 3 different cities when I was 13, when we never did, or they do not say we ever did. But I remember each life, each one, each move. It was, what was I doing if I wasn't moving? I remember the middle schools I attended and the friends I made before I was dragged back to the town I was born in. Entire days, weeks, years of my life were erased. Like smoke in the wind. That's what I felt like my life was. Mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. It started driving me to the crazy. On my 13th birthday, I was hunted down by a woman in a gray suit, chased into the forest, and stabbed in the gut. I remember her steel grip on my neck, choking the breath from my lungs, the cruel teeth of her knife plunging in and out of my stomach until the warm, wet blood was staining my shirt, soaking through. This woman never spoke to me. She never said a word when she murdered me. I went through this 3 damn times. 3, not just once. 3 versions of me screaming for my parents who were never there, never home, never there to help me. Throwing myself into a run that was never fast enough, and always going into the same forest I knew was my final destination. I started to wonder if being murdered was my fate. This can happen, you know. And see things and feel it, and it's kind of like a premonition. something bad in a previous life. But it had to be before the fourth time because everything came in threes. Like I said, before the rule of three. This is where I shut my bedroom window and decided to sleep downstairs. I waited for her to appear, her looming silhouette to hang over me, as always, pulling me from my deep slumber and catapulting me into a chase that ended in me bleeding out in the forest with no air in my lungs to scream for help. But this time was completely different. You see, there was no woman in a gray suit. I slept soundly downstairs and was woken by my mother returning from work with a giant birthday cake and presents wrapped in bright pink. I thought the thing would stop hurting me, stop forcing me through the same dramatic events, cutting and pasting, editing, making them, me making them, it making them, whatever was making them progressively more torturous. And you would think it would just have stopped there, like I figured it out, right? I don't know. You know, if somebody can kill me over and over again with no consequences, as well as the ability to cut it out like it never happened, why wouldn't they, right? I started to think in my crazy mind. But see, the thing is, I can feel and I remember and I can taste the metallic of the blood in my mouth as I died every single time. I remembered every change, every movement, every move, every moment, every relationship I didn't or did have. At 14, I fell out of my bedroom window, bled out my mother's arms. Reliving it over and over and over again. Different things would happen. I would change it, I guess. Or something would change it. An entity, I don't know. I don't know what to call it because I don't know what it is. My steps to my choices and what I was going to do was almost like changing and evolving till I never even went into my bedroom. Instead, I stayed in the front yard and read a book under the late summer sun. I was haunted by my memories and I was haunted from my past. Universes, experiences, whatever. I could remember falling directly under my head, the wind in my face as I plunged down, 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 deep, deep under my head. Sharp breath on impact, slamming into me. Completely paralyzed under something sharp, sticking from the ground. Blood seeping from my ears, ruining my mother's dress. As she sobbed into my ear and screaming for somebody to call an ambulance. I remember feeling fuzzy, also weirdly at peace. Like I could close my eyes and everything would be okay. I died. I remember the confusing and dizzying blur of darkness and nothing enveloping me before the whole thing was severed from me. A full memory cut to shreds, sliced from ear to ear, only existing in fragments, haunting the back of my mind. Even if I wanted to get rid of the thought, the memory, I couldn't because it was so real. I couldn't even confide in anyone. Everybody would think I was freaking crazy. Whenever I even remotely started to express my thoughts, I found myself struggling to articulate them effectively. Of course, I mean, how can you explain that you think that you're being edited or you're living in a parallel universe or your subconscious is changing you or you're living multiple lives at once? The words were stuck in my mouth like glue, unable to escape. I don't then to Dr. Luke, who worried about my educational development when I spent most of my time sleeping in class. Because that is what this life entity, editor, whatever you want to call it, wanted me to do. They wanted me to sleep, so I slept. When I tried to speak to anyone about what was going on, my own sentences were erased from my mind, at least to speak them out loud. I felt confused and scared. Every day turned into a nightmare. I felt helpless. See, I thought this was a thing or an entity or something. It had to be. It wasn't a god or an all-knowing and all-seeing entity. I thought it was a human-like being. One day I woke suddenly with the knowledge that the person controlling my life was called Seven. No, they did not have bad intentions, they were just curious. And maybe it was my mind's eye thinking that that's who it was, because I wanted answers so badly that I just manifested Seven as a way to identify the person doing this. I would see glimpses of him, I don't know. And then there was more of them. I could see my bedroom, my life, my classroom. I don't know if I was making it all up, if it was my mind splintering. I don't know. It would make sense if Seven was in the hospital, that he had been staring at odd-looking tiles, machines, that he was manipulating with his mind, that he could manipulate my life. He was kneeling on the floor with something pressed to his knees. I never saw what it was because only Seven existed in a small snapshot in my mind. Pieces of him bed for me. For a long time I thought Seven was in the hospital, but I would see the glass sliding doors of her room opening up, and a man my dad's age would appear with a strained smile, announcing dinner was ready. I don't know, it was like Seven would jump up and spread fairy dust and things would change. It was odd. I don't know what was happening to my world. I never did find out who Seven is or was or would be. But I realized that I was living my life vicariously through these different people in my mind. There came a moment as I grew up and more things about my life were changed and erased completely before I accepted it. I had no choice. I did have a rebellious phase where I lost my mind almost completely. I became obsessed with snatching back control. I wanted control. I stepped in front of a bus on my way to school only to be snapped back 5 minutes before leaving the house. I shaved all my hair off almost immediately, just as my mom's eyes were growing to the size of twin saucers. I was thrown back 2 minutes before. And my hair was fine. My attempts became obsessive. It became a weird game. I slapped my then boyfriend, who I did not even like, in the face and flashed the whole school. So Seven, made me homesick instead. I doused her place a little and lit a match, convinced if I made a statement as big as an explosion that Seven would understand. But I thought wrong. I was naive. Before I felt the heat of explosion, Seven took me all the way back to the beach where I was sunbathing under the sun. Not anywhere near home. I don't know who could do this. I guess I was fucking crazy, turning me into a murderer in one instant, then a victim, and then a murderer, then a victim. And then wiping it all away, leaving me with the memory memories, though. 15 years old and I was completely desensitized to death and life and tired of both. I was done. I was done fighting, and when I made that clear, throwing up my white flag, stopped trying to take control. The weird thing was whoever this 7 was stopped trying to murder me and punish me. I started to live my life, and they laid it out for me. I don't even blink when my cereal changed from Frosted Flakes to peanut butter pops. I stopped noticing all these different changes. Or I did notice, but I didn't care anymore. I got a transfer student from Australia called Lucy, and she became Adam from Canada, and then Genji from Japan. Whatever. Doesn't even matter anymore. My sophomore year, I saw the woman in the gray suit again. This time, she was our new guidance counselor. I guess whoever 7 was thought it would get a reaction out of me, but I was way past being scared of a monster from my childhood, who had been cut and sliced and severed until they only existed inside my memory. The exact same strict blonde ponytail and narrow nose or collar, popped open slightly and one button missing on her suit. Yeah, that's how much I remember. I don't know, who knows? I would go and visit this woman who tried to kill me. Her name was Mrs. Stoke, then Mrs. Smith, then Mrs. Case. I don't know, every day was different. She always smelled like pine trees. I died underneath. I wonder why I didn't die many times. But things like my dad's death and my best friend's cancer diagnosis could not be changed by 7. I could be murdered. I could die. I could stab myself. I could stand in front of a bus. I could slit my own throat, and I would come back. But I couldn't go back when Nick revealed he had something in his brain which turned out to be benign. A grade 2 brain tumor that was thankfully treatable, though still had potential to spread. That still had potential to spread throughout his body. Yeah. That could have. This is my first proper slap in my face, whatever face that might be. I could be fucked with, manipulated, and transported to different universes, edited, whatever, while the people in my life had their own fate, their own path. Nick's path was his. He discovered he had a potentially killer disease at the age of 14, fought it, and won. He told me as we were just saying goodbye, and the expression on his face told me everything I needed to know. Nick was scared, terrified. He didn't want me to worry, and he told me at probably the worst time when I had to head home to help my mom prepare catering for a barbecue. I'm sick, so I need to be in the emergency room for a bit, but I'm okay, he said as fast as he could before jumping into his dad's car. And it actually registered. Oh, his words registered in my mind and followed him right to the window of his car, demanding to know what he meant. Nick's smile disappeared. Nick's smile disappeared. It's nothing, he said before rolling up the window and urging his dad to drive, tears coming down his face. I found out what he meant later that night. My mom came to my room and wrapped her arms around me. She told me exactly what it was. I naively hoped 7 would take me back to the night before Nick dropped the bombshell. Instead, have him say something completely different. But no, that was never taken back. was not okay. That day went on to become a concrete moment in my life, completely unchangeable. I started to understand that the people in the world around me could not be changed. It was me. I was very, very wrong. I don't know, I didn't think I created this person back then, but now I'm starting to realize I did. I don't think my life had been hijacked anymore. It was just me blanking in and out to deal with life. So yes, I went to my prom. And it was hard to go to a prom and a prom dress, actually riding a bicycle, but I did it. It was hard to pedal in heels and a dress, and it took me falling 3 times before my editor 7 or Parallel Universe figured it out. This is the last fucking time I could sense their eagerness to get this perfect. Thoroughly June that he'd scorched my back, and I felt something I had been burst 9 times. A light breeze grazing my cheeks and playing with my strands of hair. The sky was cloudy, and I was being attacked by fireflies, tiny buzzing balls of light dancing in my eyes. I already knew exactly where the night ahead would lead. I wasn't technically allowed to go to the prom due to many tardies at school. But I was reliving the same night after night after night after night, so I knew what was going to happen. I knew it all before it happened, because it already happened so many times, and I couldn't tell anybody. I don't know. I tried to beg this person who was changing my reality, altering my life. Well, I called 7, I begged them, but it didn't happen. Never happened. But I became queen that night, and Nick became king. Somehow he didn't belong next to me or in that room like he had every other time. His presence felt like a glitch, a problem I couldn't look past. Nick looked like a shadow, a silhouette than an actual human. Still, though, the same words came from my mouth in the exact same tangled slew as every other time, but this time I felt self-aware that there was something wrong with him, and he wasn't good at hiding it. I said. Oh boy. I didn't vote for you, which was a lie. I always voted for him when I turned not to the ballot road itself anyway. Fuck, Nick groaned, tipping his head back with a sigh, but it looked almost forced out of whack. Too fast, like it had been put on 2 or 3 times the speed. I don't know. Nick had been referring to his cancer as the thing for a while now. The thing was a very small monster hiding in his brain, or the size of a raisin, which had needed both surgery and chemotherapy. It had been caught early, and he had been in remission for almost two years. He lost his hair a little bit, and it had all grown back again. But still, for some reason, our class still referred to him as the kid who got cancer. That's sad. But there's not a lot you can say to someone who has cancer when the cruel yet universal answer get so many darties. Ouch. Please leave, Miss Smith. Mrs. Williams said she was flustered I was even there. Stay here, King said so, Nick said. But the teacher shot a warning look at him before pointing to the door. I didn't want to argue, but being dragged out of a prom was as embarrassing as it gets. So I waved a half-hearted goodbye to Nick. Lucas at Bree was making a speech and headed towards the door. That's what I always did, all 9 times of my prom. But this time Nick caught my eye and said, "We need to talk." My best friend's gaze lingered on me before finding our classmates once more. I found my fingers grazing my own face, lips, and cheeks, and yes, I was real. I was thinking my own thoughts, which exploded into my mouth and slipped from my lips when I dared to speak them. Words I wanted to tell my mother at the age of 8 when I was scared I was losing my fucking mind. Starting towards the exit, I planned to wait on the football field for Nick. But then something weird happened. This girl April came running out. Tell them to stop. Tell them to stop. I grabbed April and said, "Who?" As she grabbed me back, my shoulders squeezing for dear life. 7, you fucking idiot. 7. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. I can't take it. You need to tell her to stop. When she faced me, there was something wrong with her eyes. Her nose was bleeding, not bad, but significant enough for her to realize, her eyes widening. They're all going to kill us. But before I could respond, the girl stumbling away, sobbing, clawing at her hair like she was trying to scalp herself. Turning to shout the girl's name, I caught the sudden flash of movement in the corner of my eye. I knew what it was, who it was, what it was, from the ponytail swishing from side to side. Fuck, my childhood nightmare was back. The counselor. This time she did not try to hide her facade. I glimpsed the familiar sliver of silver poking through the knuckles of her fist. She was going to murder me again. I could not do it. I was going to die this time. I tried to speak to 7 when the ice cold blade was plunged into my gut over and over again. Beads of warm blood filling my mouth and dripping down my chin. Why are you doing this to me? Why? I dropped to the ground with a woman's fingers untangled from my hair, letting me slip to the floor with a wet, meaty smack. I was trying to drink in her features and try to find a person, a soul, something behind those fucking dark eyes pouring into me. I was found. The dark, dead. This time I was aware of my death. I was aware of the dark swallowing me up. I expected 7 to edit me out. But when I opened my eyes, I was standing up back at prom, back leaning against the table with Nick at my side, his expression back to normal. What in the fuck? Somebody's trying to kill me, I whispered. What? Somebody's trying to kill you? Behind you? What? Swallowing hard, I blinked. The strange words faded silently before disappearing. What do you mean? Just like in my dreams. I'm back in my bedroom. I don't get it. Nothing happened. Here we go again. I guess prom number 10. I don't know. Steve, Liam, I don't know, they weren't random kids picked out to be my crushes. The jobs my dad got, all the towns I moved to, they were multiple choices. All those times I was killed by the woman in the gray suit, I was the final girl in someone's sick idea of a game. Seven wasn't editing me or my life. They had dragged me into their own horrific creation and were taking me back to the last save point to do it all again. Oh yeah, I was a video game. Boy in real life. That to do it over and over and over again. It fucking terrifies me. They are no sleep, but why was it shut down? The Reddit admins were spying on me. The blackout was not what it seemed. I followed the same news that we all knew was so important. My main source of information last week in the internet actually increased my faith in humanity for just a split second, as I saw groups specifically designed for horrific things tearing each other apart, uniting for a common cause. I love the idea of admins experiencing shock upon learning that people resent their content being harvested for corporate profit. I didn't think that the first pop-up ads were a little strange, but the internet gremlins, I called them, are constantly scraping data from my computer, and I shrug it off. Every damn time I shrug it off. I'm looking at an ad for a site that claims it will explain why the Reddit blackout is wrong. I mentioned to my wife last week. Well, what's it say? She asked. No way, I'm not clicking on it. I'm already creeped out by how closely they watch my browser history. I can't have that on my list. I forgot about it until the next day when I got the text to my phone. Daniel, have you checked out this website? The blackout isn't what it seems. I'm scared. The number was 555-1913. Grim warning. I don't know is in on it or how they got my number. That's when I decided to stop following the blackout news. I figured I would just hunker down and read squiggly ink lines on wood pulp until everything blew over. Yeah, I know, dramatic, right? But I never realized Reddit had my address. Reddit, the front page of the internet, was emblazoned across the front of the postcard. One of those 1960s chipper-looking black and white cartoon men was smiling, giving me a thumbs up. What really freaked me out was that he was drawn to look exactly like me, right down to the Laura farming equipment t-shirt that I only ever use for sleep. You know what I mean? You know, you get that feeling being watched in a digital world that can come in at 360 degrees. No matter where I looked, I felt them from every blind spot, every angle. So I gave my wife a handwritten note. Motel tonight. What? Bree gave me the exact same incredulous expression that she'd flashed on the wasn't dreaming yet, said the sounds were definitely real. Yes, sir, I just passed out. The drugs kicked in before he could start babbling, whatever, again. I could barely make out. My gut froze. I knew the admins were about to make their move and the voices belonged to my fucking wife. Everything clicked into place in the worst possible way. As long as Bree was with me, I would never be able to escape this. Our effort to show dominance over the admins has only angered them. I don't know if Bree is stalking me or is being threatened herself. I don't know which is worse, but I had to let everyone know. I could tell that she was speaking out on the weird-ass toilet phone they stick in some hotel room, so I decided to check her bag and see if she snuck her cell phone despite my warning. I don't know why, but my heart sank even deeper. Even deeper when I found it in her bag. I took it under the covers and typed this from across the room. It looks like I'm still asleep. I don't know what to do. I've never been this scared. Reddit admins, I'm sorry, I've never meant to invoke your inexplicable wrath. If I'm able to update, I will. That is all the creepy stories for tonight. From the no longer let's not meet to no longer are no sleep to just